Hey everyone, I'm Zach Wright. I'm the founder of Grapevine Workplace, and I'm doing a few other things. And so, to not muddy the waters, I wanted to create an entirely new YouTube channel to be able to share more often. Because as I'm building these applications, and then I'm also looking for new positions, and I'm also looking for how I can help other people build their own applications. So I'll go in. If you need an internal application, I can build it for you and then hand it over to you, or we can build it together, or it doesn't have to be internal either. So there's a couple of things that I'm trying to map out in the best way to do this. And I've been wanting to create more YouTube videos to walk through some of the ugly things, right? Instead of everything being so polished. And so that's what this YouTube channel is going to be about. It's going to be me building in public. It's going to be me maybe showing the apps that I'm building for other people, but it's definitely going to be talking you through the journey of building these different applications that I'm building. And I'll set the scene a little bit here, and it's going to be unscripted, it's going to be raw, unfiltered, really just a way for me to document everything that's going on and then sprinkle in some of the lessons that I've learned over the past 3 years. And so, if that's something that you're interested in and you want to continue to follow this journey, hit subscribe, send a like, send a comment, share it with somebody else that you might think would find this helpful. But just to set the scene. So, my background is in strategy and operations. I started in IT staffing. And then once I learned about operations and more of the strategy side, I started going into more operations analyst position, business process mapping, business process analysis, working as a management consultant, ultimately getting into the startup world in Charlotte, North Carolina, working for a regulations technology company where I was the operations analyst. And then eventually I became the program management office lead, helping manage our technical team that was supplying a regulations technology the platform to companies like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, things like that. And then I eventually got into the role of strategy staff executive and director of sales operations and sales engineering and leading our sales enablement program. And so what you'll see is through the applications that I build and through the things that I talk about, it'll be from more of the operational business strategy side of things. And I feel like a lot of people will touch on that, but they won't go really into the nitty gritty part of that. But then fast forward to 2023, and after being at the company that I was at as a publicly traded company called Kumu, we were acquired by a company called IngeHouse. And so whenever we were acquired, I was on the fence about, do I go and be the VP of operations at a startup company in Washington, D.C., or do I go ahead and venture out on my own? And the decision was kind of made for me because 2 weeks before I was supposed to start the VP of operations position in Washington, D.C., the CEO ghosted me. The start date came up, still no word. And then eventually that turned into not getting the position because the CEO was actually taking a step back from the company entirely. So the decision was made for me, kind of, because I looked at it as a sign to say, okay, this is the time to go all in, own the idea that you had. And the idea that I had at the time was to build a virtual office platform. And that wasn't necessarily like a well-known topic or a well-known category. And as I was building this, the concept was the remote work, hybrid work, distributed workplaces are only going to be consistent. It's never really going to go back to the way it was, meaning that we're never going to be 100% in the office 5 days a week all the time again. And we're most likely, unless you're a very small team, you're most likely never going to be all of your employees in one location or even time zone, right? And so that means that the only consistent in an organization these days is the digital footprint. And I'm not talking about a website. I'm talking about how you communicate, how you collaborate, how you manage the work, how you do the work, right? And so the idea with the virtual office platform was to create this nucleus or this central nervous system where everybody could understand everything that's going on in the organization in one system, right? Now, I still have goals for that, but the way that I did this has significantly changed. And this is part of why I want to do this this video and this channel, is because over the past 3 years of running Grapevine Workplace, a lot of has changed, and a lot of lessons have been learned the hard way. So I have the scar tissue that hopefully I can share with people. Not saying that I'm an expert, but hopefully I can share with people so they avoid the mistakes that I made. And the craziest part is I had a big circle, not big circle, I had a good circle around me who had been there and done that, who had guided me in the right direction. But the stubbornness, the not moving fast enough, and I'm not talking about building fast enough. I'm talking about trying to speak to as many people as possible, gain that insight, and then determine which way to go. Don't get so caught up on your specific idea of how the product needs to be, but get really obsessed with the problem and how people do it today and what is the better way of going about it, right? Because when you solve a problem, the customers are more likely to actually use it, right? So the cost switching, the different things, the payment, the price tag, all those things become a little bit easier. Never easy, but a little bit easier whenever you go in this right direction. So I want to be able to talk about this thing. So whenever I started Grapevine Workplace, it was actually Grapevine software. And it was that virtual office platform. It was the virtual HQ. AI coding wasn't really there, right? So this is 2023. And ChatGPT was just gaining popularity. There wasn't Claude, there wasn't Base 44, there wasn't Replit, Bolt, like you name all these other tools that are out there now. So the way that I did this was I shopped around through certain people who had referred development companies. And so I landed on this company based out of Pakistan and the UK who had been doing software development and website building for, I think it was around 10 years. And I talked to this person while I was still at Kumu just to kind of get an idea because I knew that this was an option and I didn't know how to code. And so I needed to find a way to be able to make this actually happen, right? And so for the first 2 years of Grapevine, I worked with that development team and I spent over 100K on that development. Now, throughout the videos, I'll get like deeper into the steps that I could have went about differently. And hindsight's 2020, but scar tissue is a lifelong lesson, right? So the way that we worked was we started with the design. And so the first month or two was just full design. But one of the things that I hadn't done previously was be a product developer, be a product owner, be a UI UX designer, right? So there were areas where I thought that we were moving in the right direction, and we were moving in the right direction, but not in a completed fashion. So one of the first mistakes, and I won't go into all the mistakes right now, that will be for a different video, but one of the first ones was the UI UX design prototype didn't have everything that I envisioned inside of it. And the importance of that is when you're working with a development firm, from my understanding and from my experience, is if it's not in the design, if it's not in the statement of work, then don't expect it to be done, right? Because that was my misconception. It was like, okay, we have this prototype. Let's go ahead and get to building and we can complete the rest as we go. Well, that turned into a $59,000 scope of work into over 100K, right? And so that was the first mistake. And I say that to say during that time frame, the 2 years, there were probably moments that if I didn't have my founder goggles on, if I wasn't so obsessed with the product and my idea, then I could have taken a step back and saw, okay, people are saying that they like this idea and this concept of the virtual office platform and how it's going to feed in all these tools and so on and so forth. But the biggest issue was them liking it versus them actually using it. And the even more validating part is them actually paying for it. And so over 2 years, we hit these ebbs and flows like any other company does. But the biggest issue was the way that I was able to gain people using the product was to go from a paid structure to including a freemium plan, meaning that they could use the platform for free if they were under this amount of people, right? And my goal with that was, okay, let's just get as many users in here as possible so we can actually learn. That should have been the first step, right? It's okay. Now, you don't want to give away your product for free all the time, but find 10 companies depending on what it is, right? If it's a consumer app, maybe you want 25. If it's a B2B, which is what ours was or is, business to business, not enterprise, but business to business mid-market platform, get people in and have them use the product and then adapt from their feedback, right? And then from there, instead of saying, okay, we need this feature or this next thing that we do is going to bring in people, you can kind of get a quicker read on if your idea is actually valuable. Is it something that people are going to use? Is it something that people are going to buy? And what's crazy is I read all the business books you can see behind me. But there's something that happens whenever you're the founder and your money's on the line, your reputation, and all these things, right? There's something that happens that you think you're a little bit different. And I hate saying that, right? Like, I do think that people can change the world with an idea, right? At least spark the mind, like Tupac said, right? Like, you can spark the mind that changes the world. And so I come in here with like rose colored glasses and realize slowly that something needed to shift. And so after 2 years, only having about 12 customers, 12 companies using Grapevine Workplace, the majority of them being on the freemium plan, and the majority of them not actually using the product, right? Like, this is something that was supposed to be where you communicate, where you collaborate, where you share updates, where you share announcements, where work happens. But the vision didn't meet the platform. And the thing that I always said whenever we decided to pivot was, when I finally took the glasses off, the goggles off, and I asked myself the hard question, if you were working at a company and I came to myself and said, would I use this product? Would I pay for this product? And the answer was no. It's not because it wasn't good, but it didn't meet the standard and it didn't solve a problem. It was a vitamin. It was a nice to have. And there were other platforms out there that were free to use, or people were okay with doing XYZ, the people that I was targeting. Now, I think if I went enterprise and we went like full on, let's go to the biggest companies in the world, let's give them a new way of thinking about an intranet, a new way of thinking about how they communicate and collaborate, so on and so forth, then it could have been different. But it wasn't. And so I had to make a hard choice, and I decided to completely pivot. And I'm the type of person that watches tons of lectures on YouTube. I listen to tons of podcasts. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of articles, especially in the startup world and the founder world, because I want to know as much as I can to avoid mistakes, which is kind of ironic, right? But I heard about certain companies that are huge now, like Notion. Notion took about 5 years to get product market fit. And they actually were starting out trying to allow people to build their own software, right? But this is where the lessons come into play. Notion was trying to do that way before we had Claude, we had ChatGPT, we had or OpenAI with Codex and all these other platforms that are out there, right? That was way before that. And people didn't need that. And so what they did after the 4 years, and you can hear the founder's story talk about this, like him and the founder basically scrapped everything, moved somewhere, I can't remember the place, but it was overseas, and basically shut themselves in a room and rebuilt Notion from ground up and focused on productivity. And so I kind of took a page out of that book and we pivoted. I took every single transcript, every single customer interview, every single customer form, every single thing that I could find on G2, Clutch, any of these review sites that are public, and then also analyzed LinkedIn posts and messages and comments about companies that were playing in a similar area that we were, but also to understand, like, where should we go from here? And so with that, I decided to go into productivity, but a little bit more targeted, right? And so now we focus on, for Grapevine Workplace. So we went from Grapevine Software to Grapevine Workplace. And so now what we do is we focus on B2B services agencies. So you think about marketing agencies, you think about creative design agencies, you think about go-to-market services that are providing services to other businesses. The people who we were talking to were agencies. And so I didn't know it at the time, But we had a lot of insights and data that we could pull from and start building the system or the product like completely from ground up. I threw away literally everything that the team and I worked on. It still hurts a little bit to say. And I started building completely on Base 44. That's the tool that I use, right? And so from there, I didn't want to just take the conversations that I had, because those were conversations with those types of companies, but for a completely different product, right? So I still had to do a lot of learning. So I think it was September or August of 2025, I started building Grapevine inside of Base 44 just to see what was possible. After I saw what was possible, I was able to say, okay, this can actually become something. And this can be something that is scalable. It's something that I can manage myself, and we can grow with it over time. So I went from having a team of about like 6, 7, at sometimes 8 employees to just me. And that might seem a little bit either scary or tougher, but there's a key thing that I've been able to do. So whenever I had the development team, the issue was as a startup, you need to be able to move quickly. And so whenever we did have customers and they had issues, like we had this consistent login issue, which is just not great from the jump, right? But we had this consistent login issue. And whenever somebody had a login issue, they would message me, because I was the front facing person working with the customer. I would have to message the development team, which is in Pakistan. So they're like 9 hours ahead of me. So whenever I message them, they're probably asleep. And then they wake up and then they have to do this, but they're a development firm. So they're also working on other projects. So whenever I actually shifted to building my own thing and being able to control it myself, I was able to, if a customer comes to me right now, we have a customer, and one of the things that they wanted was invoicing, contracting, SOW creation, and then e-signature, and then be able to make payments. I built that in a week, right? And I'm not saying like development firms are bad. It's all depending on what you want to do and where you are in your stage. And so the ability to be able to control this myself and have a better customer experience, a faster customer experience, is just game changing right now. So with that, okay, so now we're Grapevine Workplace. We serve B2B services, agencies, and we're providing the agency operating system, meaning that everything that you do with your internal operations, communication, collaboration, and how you manage your prospects all the way through to them being clients can happen directly inside of Grapevine, right? So that's what we are now. And that's what people are really honing in. Plus, the product is so much better, so much more powerful. But even that, I'm still learning lessons as I do this, because I went from having the development team build the product to me building the product, which I always say, like, during those 2 years of working with the development team, I basically got my MBA in product development, product design, and UI UX design, right? So I had a lot more knowledge and experience on what to build, how to build it, and what things should be connected to what. But even saying that, even having that experience, I'm still learning, where now the thing that I didn't learn, or the thing that I didn't listen to, was, okay, there's a lot that this tool can do, but how do I get started? How is my team going to adopt it? That's always the number one question. It's not always about money, right? A lot of people will talk about, okay, you build this, you got to get it out. What's the price? Boom, boom, boom. But really, if the product is good enough and it meets their need to solve the problem that they have, and it's easy to adopt and implement into the system or into their system, all those kind of things go away. And so now what I'm doing, and this is part of what we'll be documenting here, and I always laugh, I always tell my wife, because I always say we, it's just me. And so when I say we, it's just me and the companies that I'm building. And so what I'll be, part of the thing that I'll be documenting is how I'm taking all these different things and applying them to our systems, to how we market, to the content that we create, how I actually, because the other thing, and this is a ramble, right? This is why I want to be able to do these things, because it doesn't have to be linear, but hopefully it still connects dots in the end. But one of the other things that I had to figure out is, and people say this, distribution is the moat right now. It's the moat. It's how you break through. It's how you get people to see your product. It's how you stand out in this super saturated market. And so distribution can only be as good as how well defined you know what you're doing, who you're doing it for, how they speak, how they operate, all these things, right? You can have the best product in the world. If it's confusing to understand what it is in terms of messaging, positioning, marketing, you're not going to go anywhere. That's something that I experienced. And you can even tell the way that I talk about Grapevine Workplace now, B2B agency operators, marketing, creative, like we go into detail, and it's for 10 employees to 50 employees. That's our sweet spot, right? And it's the growing ones. So the ones that are not just at 10 and they're staying there, but it's the ones that are going from 10 to 50 fast, right? It's the ones that are managing multiple projects. It's the ones that are having issues with communication to clients and emails and meetings and Slack messages or Discord messages, and then the client port, right? So like we give them all that one space. So the key here is when you think about this stuff, it's not just the product. The product is the easiest part now, right? It doesn't mean that it's easy. It's the easiest part because really anybody can build a product now with AI tools, but it's how you actually differentiate your product, right? What makes you stand out? For us, it's workplace intelligence, right? Because if you look at these other, it's workplace intelligence and contextual understanding of the work, because everything is inside of our system. And so that means that if this project gets updated, then this system reads that and knows, okay, in this stage of the project, in this column, based off of the workflows and based off of everybody that's involved and the client emails coming in, then the next step is this. And so the system will actually do a rough draft for you. So workplace intelligence and contextual understanding of the work is our differentiator. But the point of this is, it's not just a product. It's not just marketing. It's the combination of being able to narrow down. And I know people have said it over and over again, but the point in this is like, I've heard all these things. I've read all these things. Now I've experienced it. And that's the difference, right? Hopefully you don't have to experience it like I did. But so now like distribution is only as good as, like you can have great distribution. So you're breaking through the market, you're breaking through the noise. But again, if the messaging is confusing, if the positioning doesn't make sense, if whatever, you're not going to break through to where you're actually becoming a business. And so hopefully some of this is going to go into that area too. One of the books that I love to talk about in this area is Crossing the Chasm. And so we'll talk about that on the channel. But to kind of tone this down and get to the end of the video, not only am I working on Grapevine Workplace now, I'm also exploring other ideas. And so I'll share my screen and just kind of give you a rough draft of the things that I'm building. And we'll talk about them on the channel too. But the part of me calling that out is it's been so tough to look at Grapevine Workplace, which is the ultimate vision, because I have big goals for this. Like if it was up to me, which it is, but like I'm saying without the market and all that, if it was up to me and I could make this work with a snap of my fingers, like Grapevine would take over Google, Microsoft, ClickUp, Notion, all these tools that are needed to operate and just consolidate them into one system that's actually easy to use and easy to understand. Okay. But the point of me saying that is that it's not up to me necessarily. And so what I have to do to make sure that I can balance actual traction or get traction is I have to explore the problem in different ways. And then I also have to explore what is something completely off the radar that doesn't have anything to do with what I set out to do, right? Because sometimes to be successful in a way that you want to be, you have to be successful in a way that matches the timing, right? Like you think about the Notion example that I gave. Notion, I'm sure, I can almost guarantee that they have a concept to turn Notion into this software development app on top of everything that they've done. The difference that they have now is they're $1 billion company. I don't know how many users they have, but I'm sure it's in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. It's probably up there. So the difference is two things. They have that. They have the ecosystem. They have the distribution. They have the loyalist. They have people that go on YouTube and talk about them. They have they have this, right? The other thing now is they have timing. Before it was too early. Now it's right. And so I can imagine that Notion is going to go into that area. So instead of even needing Claude, you just use Notion, right? This is not a promotion for Notion. They're actually a competitor in many senses. But just based off of their origin story, where they pivoted, and then where the market is now, I can see that going there. So what I'm doing is trying to figure it out. What meets the market now? What's a problem worth solving where people actually pay for it and use it, where it can scale into a business that I actually want to, not actually want to, but like a business that is actually seen as a full-on company, a full-on business with a little bit of a market share that makes us the go-to in that specific industry or category. And so let me just show you, this is going to be the quick part of the video, and we'll go into details on some of these as I go. I don't have a plan for this channel necessarily. I just want to get on here and share a lot of the things that I learned the hard way, and hopefully it resonates with people so they can avoid those mistakes. And in some cases, I'll be teaching. In some cases, I'll be doing what I'm doing here. In other cases, maybe I'll be building together. Maybe I'll bring other people on the channel and have a conversation like a podcast or whatever. But let me go ahead and share the screen on, I think there's 4 applications that I'm working on now, and I'll show you what they look like and show you what I'm working on now so we can document the journey as I continue to build, as I continue to adapt, and hopefully as we get one of these apps to really reach a monthly recurring revenue or an ARR that is sustainable to become a real company. That's how I describe it. So let's go ahead and share the screen, and then we'll wrap up after that. All right, so what we're looking at here is the current version of Grapevine. And so like I mentioned, we have all the things that you need inside of the system. So we have your dashboard, your emails, your calendar, you have a scheduler, you have the meetings that you take on. And so like if I go to the meetings, we integrate with Fathom. So you can pull your transcripts in here. You can do workplace analysis. So if I go to a past meeting, like let's do, because some of these are time blocks. So let's actually find one. Like if I wanted to, I could come in here, I could pull in or import the Fathom from the conversation. I got to reconnect Fathom. But whenever we do have one in here, you can see it where the actual Fathom recording comes in here. You can analyze using conversational intelligence, like something that you would see with Gong, but not as expensive. The overview, so you can have talking points, different things like that. But we have tasks, so those are going to be your projects. So you have your overviews, you have your Kanban boards, your table boards, your list views, and then we have workflows that you can set up, like automated workflows for each step. We have tables, which actually lead into, I'll go to the CRM example because it's made up data. So you actually have it where it's very much like HubSpot in a sense. So if I'm clicking here, I can see all the things that I need. If I send an email, I can see when it was sent. I can see if it was open. I can set reminders, so on and so forth. You can move them, drag and drop, all that. Create a deal, basically everything that you need in a simple CRM. But then we also have analytics already formatted for you. So you can see all of your opportunities. You can see the opportunity stage, the value of them. And then as you click down here, you can get more granular on what is happening. So you can see like one deal right here, no deals right here. So there's a little bit of an issue that we need to focus on. You can see that there's 5 open opportunities past close date. So I just wanted to build this system where you're able to literally have everything that you need. And you can even see we have this financial tracker. So you can actually have your P&L in here. You can have your cash flow. You can have your balance sheet all in one place. And so we have this, we have notes, we're working on Drive. So Drive is going to be a little bit different here. So I show this to show you that some of the things that we're working on are going to be updated completely. And so like this says notes, but it's actually our wiki board or our knowledge base. And so, yeah, we have and you can even see that we still have bugs here, but we have the light view and then we have the dark view. And whenever you click in here, you can see it's kind of similar to Notion. The difference is that you have the separation and the easier way to navigate the system. Because whenever I was doing the reviews on Notion or ClickUp, they're good, but they don't scale because it starts getting confusing very quickly. And so what we want to do is we want to redesign and make it simple. Because like if I go back to, let's go back to our dashboard over here. Where are we? I'll just click Company Hub and then I'll go to dashboard. But so if you just look at the system, right, like there's so much here. And so I think that I've been building for admins because I'm an operations person. So whenever I'm in a system, I'm the one that gets to see everything, right? So that's another lesson that I've learned is I've been building for the admin. So now what I need to do is build for the leader, build for the user, and then build for the client. And so that's what we're doing. So a couple of the things, like if you look at this dashboard, and I don't even know if this is the full dashboard that we're going to use, but it's a little bit more beneficial for what it is that you need to know instead of all these things, right? So you like even these tabs up here, maybe they go away, but overdue right now, due today, and then you can click in here, you can see them. Same thing, like anything is clickable and you can just see it. But you see the big difference, like needs your attention. That's something that you should focus on. Activities and mentions. So people are probably like waiting for you, right? And you can just reply right here. Or like, what is today's schedule? And I can see that, right? I can open that meeting if I need to. And then like, where do our projects stand? What about our active playbooks? So it's a lot less, but it's more valuable. And that's one of the things that I've learned so far. And so, and I'm still working on the sidebar. Like, how can we even shrink it down more? And the other thing, like, if you notice on the original uh, Grapevine, the dashboard or the files were all on the sidebar, right? And so what we've done here is we simplified the dashboard, but we've kept a lot of the things. So we still have files, we still have notes, we still have slides, we still have forms, we still have tables, we still have contracts, but they're just positioned in the way that you think that they should live, right? So instead of me having to go over here to this page to the note, I can go over here and I can see, okay, is this right? Okay, now I can open the note, right? And you can see like they're still not wired up because they're still going to difference, but you can see like the tasks, tables, notes, drive, slides, form, they're all in the table bar. Um, but anyway, so that's what Grapevine is. So what I'm working on now is simplifying it and trying to make it easier to use from a user standpoint, and then also improve it for how clients are actually managed in here too. Now, as a part of this, I completely built my website with AI on Base 44. But as I was building it, I was building the product that I wish that I had as like, I won't call myself a creator, but as a founder, especially as the only person in the company, the only way that you get your company out there is if you market it, right? And so I wanted a way to be able to update the website fairly simple, right? So I would go to website pages over here. And if I wanted to do a template, I can come in here, like, let's say that I go to a new page and then I'll just like, let's preview this one. And I would say, okay, I want this one to be my template. So now I have a new page in there. It's all set up. I go in and I change it. I edit it, whatever I need to do. But that's typically where it stops, right? So the product that I'm building now, I'm calling it Millie Millie because it actually came from one of our AI agents in Grapevine. It's called Millie Marketing. So I was like, okay, let's just do Millie Millie. But now you can actually manage your newsletters inside of here. We have templates for different things. We'll have to bring those back. I know that they're on mine, so I got to bring those in here. You can actually create an entire help article or documentation segment. So like if I go here, Base 44 documentation. So like most companies have something like this, right? But it lives separately from your website. What I'm doing here is I'm allowing you to bring this in and you'll be able to create your own help articles here, which is good for software companies. It's good for anybody who has like maybe a complicated onboarding or product that needs help. So you think about Google or Microsoft, right? Like they have their own version. We allow this to, or we give you the opportunity to have this for yourself. You can even create templates inside of here too. You can describe it with AI and it would generate. And just so you can see what those kind of like look like. So if I go here to Grapevine, this is our actual website. So if I go to resources and then I go to templates, this is what they come out looking like. So you can actually take these and you can fill it out. And if you fill it out, you can download it as a HTML, a PDF, or a Word, or you could just save your progress and then share this with your team. But you can actually build templates like that. To do that now, I think you have to use like Canva or MailChimp or something like that. Now, I do a lot of videos, and that's part of why I wanted to create this own channel separately so I can do even more. But you can import from YouTube and bring that link in here, and it will set up like this. And then it will. I should have just kept Grapevine open because if we go to the videos section, this is how it comes out on here. So it comes out like this. You can actually generate the thumbnail or you can upload the thumbnail. So it's like inside the daily workflow, and then it spits out like this. There's a little bit of an issue. I got to work on that. But this is what it would look like inside of your website. Same thing with blog posts. So I'll just show you this before I go back there. So it comes out like this. You can create images. You have like the little headline for AI, and you just continue to go down here. You can link or embed your template. So whenever somebody clicks on it, it takes them there. They can see the template here. So it's literally taking everything that you need to run the website, the content management, and actually distribute it in one system. One of the things that I'm working on now is the content calendar planner. So you would be able to come in here and actually build out your, so like if I go over here, so this is my actual one. So if I go to my content planner, you can see that you got your content board here. You can click on it so you can edit it. And then one of the things that we don't have yet that we're working on is trying to get it integrated. We have the LinkedIn one, but it's not working yet. So that's something that we got to work on. But at least now you can have your content management planned and work with your team to go through it. And so if you have any questions or comments, you can come in here. Then whenever it's ready, you can move it over, so on and so forth. Um, so then the other things that we have is like you have your contacts. I don't want to leave that because we got some messages there. You have your previews for your pop outs that you can build. We have templates that are in here that you can leverage that look pretty good, pretty simple. That's what we wanted to do. We wanted to make it simple. You even have lead scoring in here so you can route when they enter your system, have content tagging, you have your analytics, your engagement, so on and so forth. Everything that you need to be able to understand, is your website performing? What's the content that we need? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's enough about the website. And it says I'm on this tab. I'll go ahead and do that. This one is more for like continuous learners. It's like, for me, I'm a continuous learner, but I read so many books throughout the year that I want to be able to remember what those are, right? And so if I go into my learnings, and so for example, I mentioned Crossing the Chasm. So Crossing the Chasm comes in here as an Amazon read. And so I can never figure out where I can share on Amazon. But like if I take this link, let me just see this. I won't do it because it might take a little bit of time to process, and this video is already too long. But whenever I add this, I would add this link here, and there's something that you can generate a deep dive. And so what that means is I go to my notes, and I've already done this deep dive for Crossing the Chasm. And so if I ever want to learn or remember what I learned for Crossing the Chasm, it's right here. But the next step is if I wanted to turn this into a study guide, right? So this is why it's good for like continuous learners or students. You can create flashcards. You can turn it into a full-on study guide that you would use for your class that you're studying for, or just in general. But what you would do is you would come in here, you would choose that you want to create a guide, and then you would do whatever you needed to do. And then once you actually put that in here, you can generate it with AI. So if I go here, and I'll just do this, and let's say that I want a deep dive, it'll generate. So I need to like create a deep dive with processes, process flows, and ways to help me learn every step of Crossing the Chasm. And so what you would do here, let's actually do a quick view, so just so it doesn't take as long. But basically, Studi is the AI that is going to take that information, and you can add as much detail as you want. So if you're learning multiple things, so like that is a positioning book in a sense, but I could also take obviously awesome, and then I could take screenshots or lessons learned from Fletch PMM, which is all about positioning, all about messaging and homepage design. I could take that, and then I could choose those multiple resources or file types, go into a study guide, and it formulates all this into one full-on study guide. But I actually will wait for this one because it's very cool. And if you're a continuous learner or you're a student, this is going to save you so much time. So let's give it a second. Sometimes it takes a little bit, but I'll chop it up in the edit. All right, so you can see what was produced. It's not just a document, but it's an actual full-on study guide, right? Ready to use, ready to review. So if I create this guide, what it will do, it will come in here. And so you can see the pages, and you can click through if you want to go through them faster. You can see the full view here. You can see the overview, and you can actually share it too. So if you wanted to share this with like a classmate, for example, you can go here, or if you wanted to create this and share it with your audience, however you want to go. And so you can either do it where you can see all these at once, or you can continue to see here. But like, just look at this. This output is so crazy. Like, you literally everything that you saw me do was share a link, have it process it into a note, take that note, and then turn it into a full-on study guide, right? And if it makes sense, like you can ask the builder to create. Let me see if I have one in here. I don't know. You can ask it to create flashcards inside of it. So as you're learning, you can actually have. I think this one might have it. Let's see. Nope. Okay, if this one doesn't have it, we're just gonna move on. But but yeah, you can see like flashcards can actually get in there. And if you don't see what you want in here, you can actually edit it and then add the flashcard yourself. So okay, so that's StoodiOS. Okay, this one I might be the most excited about just because I think it has the most potential for B2B, business to business opportunity. And that's what I know. B2B SaaS, RevOps, operations strategy. That's what I know. So one of the things that I mentioned was I ran our enablement program whenever our global enablement person left to go to Google. And so one of the things that I had to maintain was our repository of information that we were giving to the salespeople, the marketing people, the customer success, the support team, professional services, all of them, right? And so this is basically a knowledge base for your entire organization. And so if we go here, you can see all the wikis. And so if I click in here, you can see that there's the wikis right here. You can have all the information. We have guidebooks. Now, this might look very similar, right? Because I started with or StoodiOS, and then I turned that into this because the idea came to me from there. So we have notebooks that can come in here, and these are like the flashcards that I was talking about that can come inside. So we have guides or guidebooks that are full-on guidebooks. So I built the guide or go to market guideline to winning, which we use as like our sales bible for the sales team. It talked about who we are as a company, who we target, what's our sales process, what's our customer journey, what are the exit criteria for each stage, like all that stuff that you need to understand. And so basically what that would look like in here is maybe I have the medic framework, maybe I have the customer onboarding, maybe I have the email sequence, maybe I had a competitive intelligence. And so then whenever I create the notebook, I would create this. And then whenever I actually get inside of it and I edit it, I would add the specific guides, the specific notes, the specific whiteboards that were needed. And then it would create this full on guidebook that people would use and run for whatever that is, right? The SOP, the playbook, the process, whatever it is, that's where that would go. And then we have the actual playbooks that connect to your system. And so, like, instead of you having to always go and remember the process or the playbook or the workflow or the SOP, it actually comes to you. And so, hopefully, you can see my Slack instance here. So, whenever something is triggered, right, it would, like in a playbook, like in Salesforce or HubSpot, you would have a closed one opportunity, right? Like let's see if I can find that example here. Yeah, so close one handoff. So you get a little message congratulating you, huge win. Now it's time to kick off the post sales handoff and make sure the customer experience is just as strong as the deal. So what it does is it tells you, okay, this is coming from the playbook revenue end to end, which is this one, and then the steps are here. And so you would go and start step one. And so whenever I click on this, it would take you directly to that. And so whenever you go into step one, you would be able to actually see the details of every single thing that you need. And so like this one's already done, but if I click this, it would say, okay, these are the fields, da, 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 and then now you run the action. So now the email has already been sent. And so like whenever the admin is setting this up, they come in here and they create the message, and that person comes in here that is running that playbook, and they're able to edit it and do what they need to, but it comes directly to them. They don't have to go there. Now, the cool other part is our search feature. So it looks just like Google. So I'm searching the question, what's the process when a customer is about to churn? And so as the AI is loading up, I can search through wikis, the playbooks, the resources, or the wiki, like the full on wiki. So the wiki pages versus the wikis. And so if I click here, I can go in here and I can see that, but then I can go back to the search results and see what the actual AI overview says, because it can give me this directly. And so if I wanted to, I could either copy this and then just share it, or I could save it as a note. And so that would be something that I just look at later, or that note would appear here too, right? So this is the cool part, but even cooler is this. So let me actually do this. I'll copy this. I'll go back to Slack. And so Goose GTM has already been added and we've integrated with Slack. And so what I do here is I ask it the same question. So if you're a company that lives in Slack, you don't even really have to go to Goose GTM, because it's going to come to you and you can ask it anything, and anything that's in the system is already in there. So the people that maintain the system of Goose GTM with the UI and actually being in the system is your operations people, your knowledge management people, your IT people, the people that need to keep the playbooks up to date, your enablement people. They go in there and they run that. And then everything else, if you wanted to, you could just live out of Slack. So great question. Wasn't able to find the specific. So this is important because now it tells me that, hey, we need to build a churn prevention or at-risk customer playbook, right? So that's one thing. But then it also gives you some tips. So check with your customer success team, ask your CS or RevOps Slack channel, right? But then here are some related content that could be helpful, like sales onboarding process, customer onboarding process. That's probably the good one. So let's click on that. So now it's going to take them directly to that guide, and then they're able to review what this actually is. And so now they have the answer. So this one I get excited about, right? But yeah, so those are the 4 that I'm working on. I know that was a very long video, but I think that I've had a lot that I wanted to tell, and I just didn't want to do it on our Grapevine workplace and muddy up the waters with I'm building Grapevine workplace, but then I also have Millie Millie and I have Goose GTM and I have StoodiOS. This is a way that I can like build in public and maybe coach, teach, explain, and guide people through some of the things that I learned along the way, the hard way. So you don't have to. I know I keep saying that, but I think it's super important because there's a lot of things that you'll get advice on if you're starting a company, or you'll think that you're right, or you hear it and you know that it's true, but you kind of spin it in a little bit different way to not make it really true for you. And so hopefully with this channel, I'm able to kind of bottle these up in a raw fashion, and we can kind of grow together because I'm not an expert necessarily, but I'm learning with real battle wounds, being in the trenches and taking these and trying to consolidate them into these types of episodes. And maybe what I'll do, I thought about this too, is taking the lessons from these videos since they're unscripted and formatting those into something that you can actually read in a maybe like a process approach. So I'll use like Goose GTM or I'll use Studios and create those and share them in the description. And then that way you're able to watch this video, kind of get the real raw insights, but then also walk away with like a newsletter or just some version that says, okay, this was the episode. This is the key take. These are the key takeaways, and here's some resources that you can leverage. So once again, thanks for watching this long video and taking a chance on this. And if you found this interesting, make sure to subscribe, like, and really share it with someone else that you think would benefit from this. And in the comments, since this is kind of like free form, let me know based off of my story, based off of the things that I'm doing and building and learning, what are some of the things that you wish you knew, or some of the things that you have questions about in this realm of things that you just haven't been able to find an answer for, or somebody hasn't listened to your question to turn it into a video. Drop those in the comments, and that'll kind of help me steer this in the right direction where it's really bringing you value in the most positive way possible. So thanks so much for watching. I don't know what this channel is going to be called. I don't know what it's going to be, but we'll learn it together. And again, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and we'll see you on the next video.